y'all, welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Vashti Sarah, and you are tuned into another episode of All the Things, where we literally talk about all the things. So today, we're going to talk about relationships and 5 signs that you're dating the wrong person. Every Life is America's pro-life diaper and wipes company. My family absolutely loves them. There's no harsh toxins. There's no chemicals. It's perfectly safe for your little one. We love Every Life, their mission, their vision, everything about them. Use my code VASHTI10 for 10% off your first order. That is VASHTI10 for 10% off your first order. So a lot of my followers, a lot of my listeners are younger listeners. Some of you guys have, or some of you ladies, I'm not going to remove the guys from this, but majority of my listeners are women. But some of you are young moms, some of you are older moms, but a lot of you are single, and I want to be mindful of that my single listeners want to hear and learn certain things. So I will try to keep dating series and relationship series going, and just my thoughts on it, research on it, and what I grasp from other teachers on this specific topic. A lot of what I talk about is my personal firsthand experience, but also what I have observed from others. And I will do my best to incorporate biblical principles in that, because I don't like to just say this is what you should do because this is what you should do, but also back it up with biblical references and biblical support to show that this is the right way to date. This is the right way to look at relationships in a Christ-like manner. So 5 signs that you are dating the wrong person. And hopefully by the end of this podcast episode, you will break up with the person that you need to break up with. I'm totally kidding. If that's completely the Lord's leading, I want to encourage you, though, that if you are in a relationship that you feel and you know for a fact that, you know, you're in the wrong relationship, you've been just trying to make it appear as if it's something when it's really not, and it's been hanging on by a thread, just go ahead, cut the cord, and be done with it. Walk away. And I'm not saying that walking away will be easy. Let me tell you, it will be very, very difficult. I have walked through many of my friends through breakups, and it is very difficult. However, it's rewarding when you follow the Lord's leading and do the right thing. Sometimes relationships, it's not one and done. Sometimes being in that relationship teaches you about yourself. It teaches you about the other person, teaches you about what you want for in a spouse and in your future. And it's for a season. That's just it. And that's hard to accept, especially as a female. That's very difficult to accept, because for the most part, we plan our lives around the person that we're dating. And as detrimental as that can be, reality is no relationship is for sure until even when there's a ring on it. You hear oftentimes there's infidelity in marriages. But say all that to say, 5 reasons why you are dating the wrong person. So the first one, when they're not constantly pursuing Jesus. So if the person that you are dating right now is not constantly pursuing Jesus, and you claim and you're saying that you're in a Christian dating relationship, but you know for a fact they're not pursuing Jesus. They go to church, they're mainly so in the motion of things. They volunteer, they do the right thing, but if you ask them about their relationship with the Lord, they don't have one. There's no biblical basis for why they do what they do. It's simply because they want to date you, because they want to be in a relationship with you. If they're not constantly pursuing Jesus, you're in the wrong relationship. And I would wager to say that you are unequally yoked. And the Bible is very clear about that. 2 Corinthians 6:14 says, do not be unequally yoked together with unbelievers. And I'm not saying that because that person doesn't have a solid relationship with the Lord that they're not a Christian, but I would question the basis of their Christianity, because if you're a Christ follower, if you are following Christ, you are actively following Christ in your day-to-day walk. And yes, there will be times and periods where you just have a dry season, you're in the drought, you're in the desert, and you're just mulling through life. However, if the person that you're dating is just a Christian by name, but they don't know the Lord in their heart, they don't know scripture in their heart, I would question that relationship. And reality is, whatever they do in your dating relationship is what they're going to bring into marriage. And if you're the reason why they came to Christ, if you're the reason why they believe in the gospel message, when crisis comes inside of marriage, you're going to be the one that they're going to lean and depend on to uplift them. And their faith will be dependent on your faith in Christ. So if you are struggling in marriage or you're struggling in a relationship, they will also struggle too. And what you need in a partner, what you need in a significant other is when one is weak, the other is strong. And what helps in marriage, and I can speak on this, is I had a period in time in our early marriage, I think it was our second year in, where I was just struggling with a lot of different things, not with Christianity in the sense of, is God real? But there were certain aspects of Christianity where I was just really struggling with. And because my husband had a biblical basis of Christianity, he knew what he believed. His apologetics was already solidified. And it wasn't because I was a Christian or because I was going to church, he was going to church. Because he was doing this Christian walk on his own, he didn't have to struggle like I was. And I hope I'm making sense here. He was able to help and walk me through that difficult season. It wasn't as if he was looking around and being like, okay, I don't know what to do. My wife is struggling right now and she has all these questions and yada, yada, yada. He knew, oh, my wife is struggling. When she is weak, I am strong. I will pray for her. I will walk her through this. Vice versa. There have been times where my husband has been struggling with different things. And in that situation, what happens? I don't struggle with him. I am strong when he is weak. And that's one of the signs in dating. If the person that you are dating isn't constantly pursuing Jesus because they want to, because that's their choice, then you probably should reconsider or have a very serious conversation. Hey, why are you serving Jesus? Why are you claiming to be a Christian? What is your apologetics? Why do you believe what you believe? So that is number one. Number two, when those you love don't love who you are dating. That's a big red flag. For the most part, at least your friends and family should like the person. They probably won't like everything about them, but for the most part, you won't get a lot of thumbs down. You'll get quite a bit of thumbs up. What Jared and I did, and I've talked about this many times in several episodes past, is he asked his mentor, and I asked my mentors, show me red flags. Show me things in Jared that I'm not seeing. Same with my best friends, Alexa, Isaac. At the time, I think they were married when we were dating, or I think they were engaged when we were dating, and asked them, hey, are there anything that you see in my boyfriend at the time, Jared, that is glaring, that, is worrisome or whatever. Ask the people around you to be very honest and be open to the honesty. Now, some people would just be super critical, and it is what it is. That's the name of the game, especially if you come from a culture that is very critical. I come from a culture that's extremely critical. Be mindful and know when to, my mom always says, eat the meat, spit out the bone. Know when to spit out the bone, what you don't need, the comments and the commentary and the criticism that is unnecessary. But for the most part, people who are in your life, your mentors, your spiritual leader, they will have that discernment to call out and point out things that you're not seeing. And they should like the person that you're dating. If they don't like the person that you're dating, if the majority don't like the person that you're dating, that's a major red flag. And a major sign that you are dating the wrong person. Another thing, and I've stressed this many a times, but if you don't know, if you and your significant other, whoever you're dating, don't know how to experience healthy conflict. So if you are, now I will say, yes, you'll have your moments where you give the silent treatment, and I don't want to talk about this right now. And I'm not talking about getting really heated in the moment. I'm talking about if whenever conflict comes, you shut down and the immediate thing to do is to break up. Whenever conflict comes, you use cuss words. Whenever conflict comes, you slam things and break things. Whenever conflict comes, there's hitting involved, screaming involved, whatever it may be, name calling. If this is how you're currently handling conflict resolution in dating, let me tell you, you'll carry that in marriage. That's a major red flag. That's a huge sign that you are dating the wrong person. You cannot date someone, and you should not, date someone who cannot handle resolving conflict in a healthy manner. Something Jared and I did, and I encourage couples to do, dating couples, engaged couples, go to couples counseling. We did premarital counseling before we got engaged, and then we did premarital counseling again after we got engaged. Why? Because there were certain issues, there were certain things, certain traits in my family that I was carrying in my dating relationship that I didn't want. Similar to my husband, when we were dating, there were certain things that he was carrying into our dating relationship that stemmed from his parents that he learned that we were like, oh no, not here. So we had to nip those things in the bud. And if your significant other, if the person that you're dating is willing to work through those things, then yes, awesome, check mark, great, keep dating them. But if they're in the position where they're just like, well, this is just who I am, you got to deal with it, I would reconsider. They have to be humble enough and willing enough to work on themselves. You cannot date someone, or you should not date someone who cannot resolve conflict. Conflict resolution is a part of life. When you get married, it's not going to be roses and daisies every day, every single moment. There'll be great times. There'll be phenomenal times, but there will be some hard challenges. Life is life, and life will life at you. And there will be family conflict, financial conflict, physical conflict, sexual conflict, whatever it may be, whatever life brings, because life can life sometimes. You have to know how to handle those conflict in a Christ-like manner. It won't be perfect how you handle it, but you will walk through it and you'll walk out of it stronger together. Another thing, when you find that it's difficult to trust the one that you're with, trust is a big deal. If you don't trust the person that you're dating, I don't want to say this is probably the biggest one, but it's one of the bigger ones. If you can't trust the person that you're dating, there's honestly no reason for you guys to be in a relationship, because you'll always be wondering and question and have that question lingering behind your head. What are they doing? What is she doing? What is he doing? Is she talking to a guy? Is he talking to another girl? Is he looking at porn right now? Is she doing this? Is he? No, that's not necessary. It really isn't. And more than anything, what it does, especially from a girl to a guy, the girl not trusting the guy, what it does more than anything from that standpoint is cause the female to be extremely controlling. And if the roles are reversed, the man becomes very weak and needy because they can't trust the female. They can't trust the girlfriend. So, I mean, and we have plenty of biblical support for this, but Proverbs 3:5-6, it's better to trust God than to trust your own minds. And that is your own way of thinking you can trust someone who you shouldn't trust because you know you can't trust them. Proverbs 25:19, do not place your trust in untrustworthy people. Plain and simple. You don't need to extrapolate that any more than it already is. It's very simple. It's in your face. Do not place your trust in untrustworthy people. And more so, do not trust someone that's untrustworthy. Don't date them. Just don't. Because you won't trust them in that dating relationship. You won't trust them in marriage. And it's just hard. Once trust is broken, it takes years to regain. I'm not saying it isn't impossible to trust someone that has lost your trust, but it takes a lot of work. I'm just going to say, I personally don't think it's worth it. If you notice in dating that you can't trust that person, I don't think it's worth it to keep being in that relationship. I don't want to say once you're a liar, always a liar, because I do believe that the Lord can deliver and free you from that. But lying is one of those things that can seep into many different areas. You lie about finances, lie about relationships, lie about porn, lie about sexual sins, and porn is in that. Lying about every little area of your life. Lying is one of those things that can hurt and break marriages. So I'm just going to leave that there. Another sign that you're dating the wrong person, and this is a big one, this is one of the other big ones, is when they're leading you away from Jesus. So if before you entered that dating relationship, you were on fire with the Lord, you just knew where the Lord called you, you were on it, you were doing that thing for Jesus. And after you started dating this person, you realized, well, granted, all of this is a choice, but the influence of being with this person has led you to, I don't really need to read my Bible anymore. Oh, I'm just really tired. We hung out late. Don't really go to church anymore. Or you're going to church, you're on the platform, you're doing what you need to do. You appear to be doing the right thing, but you're compromising a lot. You thread the line, you cross the line, and you have these boundaries, but these boundaries keep being dipped into every so often. You're in the wrong relationship, because that person should draw you closer to Jesus more than anything else. They shouldn't be the reason why you serve the Lord. But if you were chasing after Christ and he is chasing after Christ, you're both going after the same thing. It draws you closer to each other and it draws you closer to the Lord. So I go back to do not be unequally yoked. But in 2 Corinthians 6:14, Paul also says, do not be bound together with unbelievers, for what partnership have righteousness and lawlessness? Or what fellowship has light with darkness? This verse suggests that we need to be very careful with who we get close to and to not emulate the lifestyles of unbelievers. And the way we emulate these lifestyles is if we connect and we incorporate our lives with them. And a lot of the times that happens in dating relationships. James 4:4 says, don't you know that friendships with the world is hatred toward God? Anyone who chooses to be a friend of the world becomes an enemy of God. And that's specifically talking about being friends with non-believers. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be friends with them, but it's partaking in the things of the world with them. And a lot of the times I see this often in Christian dating relationships. Girls especially, and I really don't want to appear to hate on guys. Genuinely, I feel like there are phenomenal Christian men out there, but it's very, very, very rare. I do believe that there are far more women in the church who are striving and chasing after the Lord than there are men. I could be wrong. I don't have any statistics for that. That's just what I've observed. I could be wrong, but I do believe a lot of men tend to drag and bring down Christian women. And that's because the women have compromised their lives and they might not be okay with drinking. They might be okay with certain sexual sins. They might be okay with whatever it may be, cursing, but they really like this guy And the guy comes to church with them. The guy volunteers in these different ministries with them. And they think, oh, he's changing. God is changing them. No, honey, I'll be very honest with you. Missionary dating rarely, if ever, works. You cannot, golly, I beg you, do not missionary date. Rarely, if ever, works. A lot of the times, while the guy has good intent to some degree, it's just for a time, it's just for a season, and old habits die hard unless it's died to Christ and they've completely repented and fled from their sinful nature. But old habits die hard, and those old habits will resurface over time. And I've seen in many relationships that have progressed over the years that the wife is the only one going to church and the husband doesn't care for it. He's at home drinking beer, getting drunk, and doesn't have a care to do with the church. Or the wife finally gives up and says, you know what? I don't want to go to church by myself, and I don't want to be questioned as to why my husband's not with me, so I won't go to church either. I beg you, if you're in a dating relationship where that individual, male or female, is drawing you away from the Lord, reconsider that relationship. It's time to do the right thing and do the hard thing. And the hard thing is often always the right thing to do. And you might just need to break off that relationship. 7 Weeks is America's pro-life coffee. It's premium coffee delivered right to your doorsteps. All roast available, and it's absolutely delicious. Start your morning off with 7 Weeks coffee. It's not just drinking coffee, it's drinking coffee with a purpose. Use my code VASHTI10 for 10% off your first order. That is VASHTI10 for 10% off your first order. So, 5 reasons why, or 5 signs you're dating the wrong person. When they're not constantly pursuing Jesus, when those you love don't love them too, when you cannot resolve conflict in a healthy manner, when you find it difficult to trust them, and when they're leading you away from Jesus. So, short, sweet, to the point, I urge you, because I love relationships. I love love. I love my marriage. I love relationships. I love everything about it. But I urge you to be very careful, prayerful, and mindful of who you're dating. And be honest with yourself if you're compromising. Be honest with yourself if you are dismissing the leading of the Lord. Because the Lord will give you wisdom and discernment if you ask for it. And a lot of the times, I feel like as Christians, we're like, I'm praying, I'm asking God to speak, I'm asking for a sign. And the issue is not whether or not God's speaking. The issue is whether we're listening. So, are you listening to what the Lord is telling you to do? Break it off with that person if you need to break it off. If you're compromising in a relationship, if you keep slipping up, you might need to just break it off and focus on a relationship with the Lord. Because in relationships, there will be temptations. There will be things that you need to work on. But if the major things, if those deal breakers are the things that your significant other is struggling with, you have to reconsider. Is this what I want to deal with the rest of my life? Is this what I want for the rest of my life in a spouse? You have to reconsider, because truth be told, old habits die hard. Well, that's it for today. Like, share, do all the things, and I will see y'all next episode.